This is Democracy Watch. So, Mark, I want to turn your attention to a comment that Trump's daughter-in-law and now RNC co-chair Lara Trump just said.
And so we're really proud of the work we've done, and we're just getting started. We've been in these positions, Michael Whatley as the chairman and I as the co-chair, for just over 3 weeks, Eric. And so, yes, you've probably seen a lot of change that we have made over at the RNC. We are now one combined effort with the campaign, and the advantage that gives us is we don't have to pay two people to do the same job. We really are a cohesive team. There is no daylight between the two of us, the Trump campaign and the RNC, and that goes to the advantage of Donald Trump. So
that quote is, "We are now one combined effort with the campaign, and the advantage that gives us is that we don't have to pay two people to do the same job." Mark, can you speak on what it means that the Trump campaign is the RNC and that the RNC is the Trump campaign now?
Well, now they have no people doing anything. If you read the press, I mean, they barely have people out in the states. They are one effort because they only care about Donald Trump. And if you are a down ballot candidate, they do not care about you. You are not part of the one, right? You're not part of the Trump RNC one. So what it means that they are together is that you can assume that all of the party affairs functions that the RNC does, the things they do to promote Republicans generally, the things they do to promote down ballot Republicans, the things they do to promote constituencies. So it's just an article about how they have holes in their constituency operations to reach out to new voters. All of those things are suffering because all that Donald Trump's campaign cares about is being a sycophant to him. And therefore, all that the RNC cares about is being a sycophant to Donald Trump.
Well, if the RNC is the Trump campaign and you've got moderate Republicans, for example, who disavow Trump in Biden districts, I believe there's 19 of them right now, and the only way to get any resources now in the RNC is to kiss the ring for Trump, how does this not forebode disaster for those frontline Republicans?
Oh, it is a disaster. I mean, look, Republicans are going to lose the House. The question we ought to be asking ourselves right now is what the margins is. I mean, I posted on Twitter a while ago that Mike Lawler, who's one of these endangered Republicans in New York 17, like he ought to just start applying for, the fast food window at the White Castle in Nanuet on Route 59. These folks need to dust off their resumes. I'm convinced that part of the reason why you see people leaving Republicans leaving Congress so much right now is they know they're going to lose. They know they're going to, even if they don't lose, they'll be in the minority, and they want to jump. They want to jump into the job market before the rest of their colleagues get there. But this is very, very bad news for Republicans down ballot. It's bad for moderate Republicans down ballot. It's even bad, frankly, for some Republicans in Trump districts down ballot.
Well, to that point, then, what is your message to those moderate Republicans out there who are about to get squeezed out by a Trump machine that values fealty above all else as the Trump campaign swallows up what's left of the Republican Party?
I mean, like I said, the first thing is get your resume up to date. Number one. But number two, start apologizing to people. Like, you ought to start building in the apologies you're gonna have to tell for why it is when democracy was at stake, you sided with the insurrectionists. Why, when a woman's right to control her own health care was at stake, you sided with the extremists. Why, when the environment was at risk, when the economy was at risk, when people's healthcare was at risk, you sold yourself to be on Team Trump. And you're going to have a lot of explaining to do to a lot of people on the outside. When you're outside of the bubble that is the Republican House conference, where you all pat each other on the back for trampling on the poor and poisoning the water and undermining democracy. When you get out into the rest of the world, you're going to have a lot of explaining to do and a lot of apologizing. So you might as well start figuring out what you're going to say now.
Isn't it crazy the extent to which these people are supplicants for Donald Trump and the MAGA wing of the party, only to get completely trampled, thrown under the bus, like one after the next after the next? I mean, look at what happened to Lindsey Graham just this week. Lindsey Graham,
it's glorious. Glorious what happened to Lindsey Graham this week.
Who was just like this bottom feeder to Donald Trump, sold out every shred of his integrity and his dignity to the guy, said one ill word of Trump or his position, actually. And Donald Trump went on Truth Social and completely just humiliated him in front of the entire country. Look at Ronna McDaniel. Took Romney out of her last name, changed her name in deference to Trump, only to get unceremoniously and publicly humiliated by him and cast out as the RNC chair. Even though the reason that she was cast out was because she wasn't winning enough elections, because she was making it too much about Donald Trump.
Yeah, I mean, look, the fact is that all of the people you just mentioned don't have an ounce of integrity or personal respect. You know, when John Kennedy wrote Profiles in Courage, one of the most interesting things about that book is he says that courage in politicians comes first and foremost from a sense of shame. In other words, they don't want to appear opportunistic. They don't want to they worry that they're going to appear shameless. And so oftentimes virtue, their courage comes out of a sense of self-worth that if they did not do the courageous thing, they would look shameful. Donald Trump has drained any last shame from the Republican Party. Yeah. There is no shame. They are willing to do anything. You could add a list of people, Elise Stefanik. You could add Nancy Mace. You could add Tom Emmer. You know, all of these people who have been tossed aside at one point or another only to come groveling back to him. You know, the fact is that it doesn't buy them anything. And this is what I think Lindsey Graham has realized. There was a period in Lindsey Graham's career, for better or worse, that he was viewed rather as a principled person. He was hanging out with John McCain. He was viewed as a principled conservative. And now he is a laughingstock. He is a laughingstock on the left. He's a laughingstock on the right, and he's a laughingstock in the middle. And he will have to live with that for the rest of his life. History will record him for the coward that he is. And it will record all of these people at this time in our nation's history when so much was on the line, that they were not just on the wrong side of history, they were cowards. They were on whatever side of history Donald Trump at any one moment woke up and told them to be on.
That was perfectly put. By the way, I'll take this moment right now for those folks who are watching and want to support the work that Marc and his team do. Please sign up for Democracy Docket. It's the free news outlet that Marc founded to focus on everything voting and elections. I'll put the link on this screen and also in the post description of this video. Marc, to what extent do you think that all of this, the Trump campaign and the RNC kind of being combined into one, is just a front to siphon money to Trump's legal defenses?
Oh, first of all, I hope it is. Like, I hope they take all of the money they'd otherwise spend on even his campaign and they pay his legal bills. And Lord knows he's got a lot of legal bills. I think that there is a part of it that's true. I think that there is in Trump's sort of mindset, he comes first, he comes second, and he comes third.
Yeah.
So first is paying his legal bills, right? Because he is not as rich as probably he would like people to think. And he doesn't want to spend money, and he is illiquid, and he's got judgments coming all over the place against him. You know, let's not forget, when you get convicted of crimes, you also get fined. So, you know, he potentially faces criminal fines on top of all these other civil cases that he faces. So sure, the first part of it is that he comes first in terms of paying his lawyers, but he comes second also in terms of the grift. You know, selling Bibles, right? Which is not going to his lawyers, right? He's selling Bibles to put money in his pocket. He put his daughter-in-law on the payroll at the RNC, right? So Jared Kushner is, you know, getting billions of dollars to run funds that he's not qualified for. So he comes second in that there is a grift element of this, and then he comes third, which is he believes that his path out of legal jeopardy, out of going to prison, is being elected. Right. So he needs some money to be left for him to run a campaign so that he thinks he can run and win and therefore pardon himself and otherwise avoid going to prison. Here's the thing. Maybe the first will work. The second might work. I'm surprised at how much the grift seems to work for him. The third's not going to work. Yeah. The third's not going to work. And Donald Trump is in a world of legal jeopardy, even if his lawyers are getting paid, and good for the lawyers getting paid. He's in a world of legal jeopardy, and his election campaign is not going to save him.
Marc, I know we joke about like the incompetence of the Trump campaign under what I'm sure is the brilliant leadership of Lara Trump when she's not deep in the throes of her next auto-tuned hit single. But is there actually something that does worry you about the combined Trump campaign and RNC?
No. I mean, the only thing that worries me about the combined Trump RNC is that they now have merged the election denier in chief into the party apparatus. But honestly, that wasn't a large travel. You know what I mean? It wasn't a large travel from Ronna McDaniel, who, as you point out, changed her last name and was a vote suppressor running the RNC, to now Whatley being a vote suppressor running the RNC, to now Lara Trump and Donald Trump being merged. I mean, it has led to some comical results. Like, I love the fact that that to get a job at the RNC, you now need to answer the question whether the 2020 election was stolen.
Yeah.
But that doesn't worry me so much. It just shows that the RNC, when this is all over, the whole place is going to have to be fumigated. They're just going to have to start over. Like, they're going to have to fire the receptionist.
Yeah.
Like, no one is going to be able to stay, because they have all now, from top to bottom, had to pledge fealty to the biggest lie and threat to American democracy.
And not only that, somebody who the votes have shown isn't successful. I mean, look at what happened in 2022, for example. Republicans actually overperformed, but it was all of Donald Trump's endorsed election denial candidates who underperformed. And so you have the Doug Mastrianos, Kari Lakes, Dr. Oz's, Herschel Walker's, Don Bolduc's, who underperformed the rest of those Republicans who did quite well in the 2022 election. The problem was that there weren't enough of them. And so the people who were losing and the agenda that they were espousing are actually becoming the foundation of that party, and it's just screwing the Republicans for the future there. So, of course, we'll say...
Yeah, and you could and look at just to add to your list, Donald Trump walked all these people off a cliff with Roe v. Wade. He walked all of them. They all followed him off that cliff with Roe v. Wade. Now, people like Lindsey Graham, they were happy to be there, and the interest groups were happy to be there, but the rank and file Republicans thought he had a plan.
Yeah.
Thought he had a plan for all of this. And his plan now appears to be to sort of panic, double back slightly, throw a whole bunch of them over under the bus, and leave them in a position where you now have Kari Lake being like, wait a second, I didn't really want Arizona to do what it's doing. I mean, it is just everything he touches turns to shit. Can I say that on YouTube?
Absolutely. That's the beauty of YouTube.
Turns to shit. And now they are that's where they are.
Yeah, their plan was to douse themselves in oil and then go play at a bonfire. That was the plan at the end of the day. With that said, of course, as I mentioned before, if anybody wants to support the work that Marc and his team do, please sign up for Democracy Docket. I'll put the link right here on the screen and also in the post description of this video. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen.
I'm Marc Elias.
This is Democracy Watch.